What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to review Evil West. Now, here's the deal. I want to make sure I'm kind of upfront and honest right in the beginning, not kind of save it for the end. I have 2 hours left of this game, and how do I know I have 2 hours? Well, I play the game, and then once I get to wherever I stop for the day, I check a walkthrough on YouTube to see where I match up and how much is left. So I know I have 2 hours left. Now, one of my kind of golden rules is I don't like to review games without beating them. So I'm breaking that rule for the purposes of this video, but I'll tell you why. In my opinion, this game is awesome. I love this game quite a bit. There are issues, and the reason I say there are issues is because what I've heard of this game is it starts to kind of break down towards the end, but not from its strengths. So the strengths that this game has throughout the whole game doesn't really suffer all that much towards the end. Other things do that are already on shaky ground. So I feel pretty confident that if I enjoy the first 75-80% of the game, then it's already worth the full game personally and firstly, and secondly, I think you may feel the same way as I do. All right, hopefully that didn't confuse you. Hopefully you didn't click away, and you probably did, but if you didn't, this game rules. This game is really fun. Now, look, I'm not here to tell you that Evil West is game of the year, or it's the greatest game that's ever come out, or it's the best game of this year. No, it is just good fun. It's just really good fun. You know, I talk about, and I actually said this for Evil West, and you know, an Alex was right kind of moment. You know, leading into this game, here's what I said. I said, this game looks enormously fun. It just looks like you're always having a blast with it. This looks like a classic 7 or 8 out of 10 kind of game. And guess what it got? 7s, 8s, right? It is a above average, but not an amazing game. I actually tweeted, it doesn't do anything extraordinarily well. Maybe fun, like the aspect of fun, it does pretty well, but I can't tell you that any one aspect of this game is like elite. But it doesn't do anything bad either. It is just a consistent throughout all. Again, there's some, you know, highs and lows in certain aspects, which we'll talk about, but it is just really solid. Now, the question is it worth the price for the value? That is something I just want to throw out there. We'll leave it after this, and I'll talk about the game itself, but the game is $50 on Steam. That's how I bought it. Bought it for $50. Given the choice, $60 on consoles, and then $50 on a PC. My PC is pretty powerful. I feel very confident it can run it, and it did. And so given the choice, I am a console guy, but $10 cheaper. I'm a cheap individual, so I went for that. So the question is $50 on computer or $60 on consoles, is that worth a game that's roughly 8 hours long? And there's the kicker. It's 8-ish hours long. I'm about 6 in. It's about 8. I'm sure you could stretch it. I'm sure you could get getting a little bit lower is tough. I have died a few times, but really I think I've made great timing, you know, with this game. I think I've done things at a very reasonable pace. I don't know how much, you know, you'd be able to shave off of those 8 hours. I don't know if you'd be able to get it to 6 or 7, but I don't also think you'd get it to like 11 or 12. Like, I don't think you'd go that crazy. So that's just something to throw out there. And I've made that kind of clear on Twitter, where it's like, I'm having a blast with this game. This game is a lot of fun. The biggest thing is like coming right after God of War during Christmas and Thanksgiving and all these holidays. Are people going to sleep on it? And are people going to use $50-$60? That's a lot of money. Maybe it's not. Maybe to some people 60 isn't a lot, but it depends obviously on the person. But $60 is $60, and is that worth it for an 8-hour experience? And I think you're going to see a wide range of, some people think 15 hours isn't worth 60, so I doubt they'll think 8 hours. So let's talk about the game itself. If you've seen comparisons to God of War and The Order 1886, you saw the right people, and I'm going to say the same thing. This game, does it have other games kind of DNA in it? Like Doom would probably be the third influence. Yes, it's got a couple other things going for it, but I really think the combat is so much like God of War that it's actually insane. Now, it's not as good as God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, but it's actually pretty close. And it doesn't, and I've said this before, it doesn't have to be better. I wasn't looking, and I walk away from this game, or when I go back in, I finish and I walk away again. I walk away thinking, you know, it's not better than God of War, but I don't care if it's better than God of War. This is not God of War. And this is a smaller team. It's a smaller game. This game does the Western kind of shooting versus vampire monster. I mean, they are vampires, but boy, they have quite a variety of enemies to them. It does it so well. Just picture God of War's fighting, but then insert shotguns and flamethrowers and pistols and a rifle and using electricity kind of mixed into it. It's a blast. It really is. It really is. And they kind of do the classic thing where you'll face a boss and then that boss kind of becomes just a normal enemy later on. It's got that kind of approach to it. It can get actually kind of insane because you can go into an area and you got your grunts, your smaller enemies, and then they throw at you like 2 bosses that are like on land, on ground that you fought before, and they're huge and they're kind of difficult. And then there's some in the air, and maybe there's one in the air that is a boss that you faced in the past, but now that's also there. It can get nuts. It can get really nuts, this game, but it's so fun because this is a game that keeps pushing you forward. And you keep getting better things. You get new weapons throughout the entire game. Well, I guess, okay, the last 2 hours, I'm not 100% sure. But you get new weapons all the time. You're always leveling up. And these power-ups, they are legit. Like when you do your ability points or when you get ability points for every level you earn. And you can get a new, thing. And those are awesome. And then you also earn money. And you can find money in the environment. And the money increases basically the weapons. So you have your shotgun kind of line. And there's 3 different abilities you can buy for your shotgun, etc., for everything else. But they're like legit. These are not like... there are some that's like increase your attack power by like 25%. There's like 1 or 2 like that, but overall it's like they're legitimate things that are big, that are kind of situational, like you got to plan it out, and they can really make a difference, and you notice it. I like abilities in my games where you notice that you got the ability. If I can't notice that I unlock something, then I don't know if I ever needed to have unlocked it. Does that make sense? So this game does that. This game, when you unlock something, when I unlock, like for just the revolver pistol, there's eventually a power-up where when you shoot, it chains electricity. It electrocutes that enemy, and it bounces off and hits everybody else. You notice that immediately once you get that upgrade. It's awesome, and so you want to get those abilities. So that's fantastic. So you got the combat style. Honestly, I really love it. It is God of War. It's got the Doom angle from the finishers. So like they'll flash, they'll light up, and you can do the finishers. That's the Doom angle. The Order 1886. Why is that brought in? Well, the Order 1886 obviously has been a talked about game for a while. I'm actually going to go back and play it and hopefully do like a retrospective video on the channel on it very soon. But the Order is because of the lore, right? So the Order, I guess Wolfenstein maybe but it really does scream the Order to me, where it's like it's these hidden societies, these secret societies back in time. It's alternate history, right? Which is really cool. These alternate history things are awesome, and that's where the Order comes in. Now, does it do it, incredibly spectacularly well? Well, I do like the change of history. I like the idea of like lightning and like the steam engine, or I like those ideas. The story itself is it's definitely the weakest part. Story / characters. Now, here's what I'll say, honestly, though. The main character, Jesse, I actually really like him. The issue I think this game has is with the story and characters is this. Some characters don't feel like they belong in this game. There are some really campy, over-the-top actors, and I don't know if they were told to do that or they just decided and nobody caught it, but there are definitely characters that don't take it as serious. Like, the characters themselves don't take the game as seriously as other characters in it. And it does a couple different things. It makes the people that are kind of wild and they have really bombastic personalities, it makes them seem really off. And also, to some, not actually to me, but like I can see how you see it, Jesse, the main character, he's just one of those guys he's very direct. He has lines. I saw some reviews that basically kind of made him out to be almost like a silent. I don't know what they were talking about, but he's not silent, and they didn't say that. But I thought he would be way more on the quiet side, and he's not. He does talk, but he's to the point, right? He says things. They're direct. They get to the point. He wants to be out in the field doing things. He comes back, then he goes back out in the field. That's who he is. And so when you have two completely different things, when they contrast each other, it almost hurts both of them, because I do think that's why people don't really like Jesse as a character. I actually think he fits this game. I think if every character was like him, would there be less personality to the game? Yeah, because I do kind of like smile, at some of the over-the-topness from some of the characters. And so it gives it a little something that I don't really think, by the way, and that's the point of this review. Why am I doing a review without beating it? I don't think it hurts the game. I think, like, the story isn't amazing. It's okay. The characters, they're not amazing. They're okay. I don't think it hurts the game. So if the story completely falls off a cliff here in the last, 20% of the game, it doesn't really matter because it's also not the game for me. That's not why I'm continuing. Now, if it was the only good thing or average thing in the game and the rest was bad, then we'd have an issue. So that's where we're at. This is just a fun, like, I go back to what I said in the beginning, like, not every game needs to be a 9, a 10, these perfect gems. Now, of course, you strive for the best that you, I'm not saying, like, being mediocre is okay because not everybody, can be the best. So you might as well just settle for getting like a 5 out of 10. I get how, like, those two things are kind of closely related, but I just think a game like this can exist. A game that gets a 7 or an 8. It's not amazing at anything. The thing that it's closest to being really good at is the combat, and you could argue, and the variety in the end. The enemies are awesome. Visually, it's pretty darn good. The audio is pretty solid. Like solid. Solid is a key word here because it keeps popping up. And the things that it's best at in the combat and stuff, it is heavily borrowing from other things. And, to be fair, it doesn't do it as well as those other things. But because of, like I just said, because of the different weapons that you have, the different guns, the different enemy types, you have a lot of different abilities in this game. I feel like I'm playing a somewhat lesser God of War, but I also feel like we're just on two different tracks of a train where, like, I can see God of War, but I'm not really worried. Like, if I step back, I can say, yeah, it's maybe a lesser God of War. But when you're playing it, you don't really care. It's solid. It feels really, really tight. It feels really good. You have enough weapons and variety to take out the enemies. Like, it's just a really fun time. And I don't really care that it's a slightly lesser God of War. Does that make sense? So that's kind of where we're at. This is a game that I don't know if it's worth 50 or 60. I mean, again, I paid 50. And, to get 8 hours, it'll depend. Like, for me, I've talked about games like Sifu. I've talked about games like Kena, Bridge of Spirits, which is one of my favorite games of last year. Kena, specifically that one, I believe was $40 at launch, and it was about 8 to 10 hours long, maybe a little bit longer, if you got stuck on puzzles and stuff. But that game, like, still follows me. Like, I still think back to that game and how special that game was. Now, I don't think Evil West makes the same impact on me as Kena did. But these kind of games that just kind of stand out just a little bit for being different, and they're smaller. Not everybody focuses on them. They sometimes stick around with me in my head. And when games do that, that's when I know they're worth the money. If I play a game and I forget about it, like for me, Somerville just did not connect with me. That was a game that came out a few weeks ago. Now it was free. It was on Game Pass. It took like 3 hours to beat. And it is weird and it's different, and maybe it will hang with some people in their head long term. But for me, I forget about it. I literally forget the game existed. So what did it really make an impact on me? No, it didn't, because I forgot about it. And that's kind of how it's a different grading system maybe I do. So, hey, check out Evil West if you are looking for just some, I guess mindless maybe is the right word. If you're looking for just some mindless, awesome fun that controls really, really tight and just really awesome, maybe pick the game up. Is it worth $50 to $60? I don't know. Depends on the length of time. Is 8 hours worth $60 for to you? If it is, awesome. If it's not, that's okay. And maybe get it on sale. If it's like $20 or $30, I think easily pick it up, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. If you want to follow or support me anywhere else, all my social media is in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.